Hello, YouTube. Today we're going to be taking a look at the age at which you can do things. And there's always a line in the sand somewhere between when you're not allowed to do things because you're too young and naive and inexperienced and childlike, and when you're too old or when you're old enough to do it. And, one of these lines in the sand is when you can pick up a gun and kill for your country. Or if you prefer a softer euphemism, when you can lay down your life for your country. Although I would remind you of the General Patton's comment on that the whole point of war isn't to die for your country, it's to make the other poor bastard die for his. But anyway, in America, the age at which you can do that is 17. Which is, this is probably about right. Although in the UK, it's actually 16. You can, which is the youngest you can join up any armed forces in Europe. Although arguably UK is not in Europe, but not anymore anyway. But this was true going back to when I was a kid. I remember seeing news reports of this when I was young. That some guy was very miffed that he could join the army at 16, which he had done. He could get married at 16 and, start a family and all that sort of thing. But he couldn't buy the alcohol for the wedding till he was 18. Which you've got to admit, given that this was probably 20 years ago, he had a point back then, and he would still have a point back now, or right now. And now the reason I bring all this up, of course, isn't so much about the age that you can be trained to kill for your country. It's about this guy, Matt Gaetz, who is accused of sex trafficking a child, as he frequently reported in the news, across state lines for, purposes of sex, that sort of thing. Now, Matt Gaetz is an absolute toe rag. There is no love lost between me and folks like this at all. It's kind of like what you would get if you infused something devoid of morals with the intense desire to sniff Trump's ass. That's basically what you're going to end up with, is Matt Gaetz. And he also bears more than a passing resemblance to the evil guy in Lazy Town, Robbie Rotten. It's this sort of, especially in these sort of cartoony suits that he will frequently wear. He looks, kind of like a archetypal villain. Anyway, so the accusation is, the age of consent varies from state to state, and in some of them it's 17, and some of them it's 18. And he's accused of basically moving someone across state lines from where the age of consent was 17 to where the age of consent is 18, and doing it in sort of cohorts with this guy called Joel Greenberg. Now, the thing is that this is, it's defined as child trafficking, even though they're 17, and it carries a sort of minimum sentence of 10 years in jail, which, is that really sensible? But anyway, if he's done with coercion, absolutely. But if it's someone who is just acting like an adult who can join the army, and they're just making the decision to go across the state lines for sex, or even sex in exchange for things, 10 years in jail? No. Like I was saying, this guy's like to have a litany of other skeletons in the closet. But the thing is that his buddy, it looks like, is sort of guilty of sin, and he's, in order to get a reduced sentence, is flipping on Gaetz, which means that Gaetz might well soon end up in 10 years minimum in jail territory. Now, like I was saying, if you can join the army, you can choose to do other things as well. And like I was saying, in the UK, it's a little weird that you can get married at 16, you join the army at 16, you can't buy alcohol till you're um, 18. In America, it's even more weird in that each of the states have their own ages of consent, which there's a whole bunch of variants on this that, once you're 18, 17, or sometimes 16, you're basically a free agent. Do whatever the hell you want, which is about right. And then some states have different rules and regulations that if, you're of the same cohort, that you're both, what the hell, New Jersey and New Mexico. Anyway, what? Seriously? Anyway, I think this is for, if it's kids experimenting with their colleagues in class, that sort of thing. Does it really make any sense to call this statutory rape and then put them both in jail for 20 years? Because let's be real, in this sort of age range, not only are they physically and mentally able, kids at that sort of age have some desires. Anyway, marriage, on the other hand, also some of these vary considerably. That I think it's you can get married basically anywhere in America once you're 18. Do whatever the hell you want. And in some of them, if you get parental consent, you can get married earlier. And some of these go really 12 in Massachusetts, 12-year-olds for females and 14-year-old for males. Seriously? But the age of consent is still 18. Like saying, a lot of these rules really don't make a lot of sense. But like I was saying, right? The squaddies who could join up at 16, but can't buy the alcohol till they're 18. In America, 18 is pretty much universally when you can get married as an adult, basically make your own calls at that sort of age. But buying alcohol in America is 21. Which, I think this is a hang-up that goes all the way back to Prohibition. And Prohibition was an interesting one because, there's one of these moral panics and everyone wanted to ban alcohol. Well, the moral panicky people wanted to ban alcohol because this was their, games cause violence of the era sort of thing. It was an evil corruption on the soul. And what it really, it did two things. First of all, it established one of the largest organized crime networks ever to exist. And secondly, it showed that, not even the American government can criminalize things that people want to do. Basically, there was no way that law enforcement could actually enforce it. Even if they had, you'd end up putting you turn a significant portion of your population into criminals. And it's the sort of same thing with if you have, mandatory rape. What are the mandatory rape laws when it's just two kids messing around with each other? Does that make statutory rape? There we go. Mandatory rape. Jesus. Statutory rape. When it's just two 16-year-olds messing around, does that make any sense whatsoever? And for me, honestly, as long as there's no coercion involved, if they're old enough to join the army and pick up a gun and go and kill people for their country, they're old enough to decide if to make their own calls on if they're going over state lines to have sex, even if it's in exchange for stuff. So for me, saying this is sex trafficking, it's a bit of a push for me. The guys are sleazebag on all sorts of levels, and I'm not exactly crying any tears for him, but Paid $900 to accused sex trafficker. Anyway, so that's the what I've got to say on Matt Gaetz. Let me know what you think below, and thanks for watching.